Alright, who's seen this one? You gotta be a real hardcore nerd to have seen this one. Red Planet. What is with you? That's why you sat in the front row. Okay, so we've seen Red Planet. So this is a terrible movie. Terrible. Don't see this movie. Unless you're me, because I had to check the facts that I'm about to tell you. So in this movie, there's a geneticist character, played by Tom Sizemore. And genetics is going to be important to the plot, as you know. So he's got to identify himself as the techno nerd. You know, I'm the guy who knows the details that are going to matter. So he says, I'm a geneticist, and I watched this, I got it on Netflix, paid it back, I'm right. I'm a geneticist, I study A, G, T, and P. I study A, G, T, and P. Okay, come on, it's dawning realization, you know, right? That's, okay, we don't have that, so that's not the genetic, you know, those are not the base pairs. I mean, if they had hired a graduate student, or if they had just bothered to seek Gattaca, they would have fixed this. Okay. Why do we care? Why does all this matter? Many reports have shown that the United States is not doing so well in science right now. Okay, this is a report from the National Academies. They've done a more updated version. Basically, it's this rear-view mirror argument. There are these countries coming up fast, the Chinas, the Indias. They care. They're not impaired by their domestic politics or whatever, and they know this is the way to thrive in the 21st century. And now it's not as much a rear-view mirror argument as like they're the car next to us kind of argument. But we've enjoyed prosperity for half a century because of scientific innovation, and now we don't seem to value it. There's some things about this argument that are not completely understood, though, because it's taken to mean that somehow we need to produce more scientists. Like we don't have enough, China's producing too many. I mean, it's not quite right. Our numbers of total scientists, PhDs being minted are increasing. China's slope is like vertical, so you know they're gonna blow by at some point, but we are producing more. I'm cool with producing more. But what you never hear in the context of the argument is that if we're going to produce more, we really should try to make sure that we're putting the ones that we already have to use, that they have good career opportunities, and that they're going to thrive in what they do. Before we try to even produce more than that, you have to look at the job market for young scientists, and I know them. And I tell you that they're not that happy right now about their prospects. You know, they don't feel like they're going to be their mentor anymore. It isn't like it used to be. It's too competitive, and a lot of them are dropping out and saying, you know, I'm not going to stay a bench scientist. But they've got all of these skills. They know the science, but they want to do something more, something different. I meet them everywhere I go. I'm sure there's some of them here. And, exactly right. I know, everywhere I go. My statistics are right. You validate it. So here's my proposal. We've got this gap between science and society. It's destructive. It's not good for our economy. It's not good for our future. And we have all these young scientists who are talented and enthusiastic and optimistic, who are trying to find something to do. I mean, this is sort of like, you know, the peanut butter and the, you know, the chocolate. I mean, I think that they go together nicely, and I think that you can kill two birds with one stone here if we can just mobilize them. And I even have a job description. I call them the deadly ninjas of science communication. Okay? And you can ask me later. That's why, like, my answer was ninjas. Deadly ninjas of science communication. How are we going to make them? How are we going to create them? It turns out that they now come to us wanting to take on this role. Because what we're realizing within the scientific community now is that because of all the factors that I've cited already, it turns out that the scientists are going to have to be the ones to step up and reconnect with the public. The public isn't just going to step up and reconnect with the scientists, right? They don't know what they're missing, so they don't know what they're missing. So they're not going to do it. And scientists initially used to resist this idea, oh my God, you know, I've got to write grants, I've got to do research, I've got to teach, and now you want me to do something else. Now you want me to become a communicator too, and they would really resent that, and some of them still do. But even in the last 2 years, we found that the tone is really changing, and they're really starting to embrace this. And I think that they should. I think the onus is on them. If they're so worried about where the public is, then they should do something about it. And they are doing something about it. So we're training them. And this is something I now do every month, and I'm about to ship off the Mississippi, if Irene lets me, to do this again this month. I work with the National Science Foundation, and we train young scientists, old, all ages, to communicate. And we do one state a month, and about 150 show up for the first day, and then we pick the elite for the second day. What do we teach them? We teach them how to connect with the public. And the first concept, there's many things that we teach them. We teach them how to make a PowerPoint, okay? Scientists' PowerPoints cause me exquisite agony. They're like, well, I don't know why they do this, right? But they write their notes to you. It's like it's all words, and they're saying the words, okay? Why do they do that? Why do they think that that's a good way to communicate? So we try to teach them to use pictures, and their charts, and their graphs. It causes me such pain. So we try to help them. We teach them PowerPoint. We teach them how to make video. We teach them blogging. We teach them a lot of conceptual things. One of the things we teach them is framing. This is absolutely important. You cannot communicate without framing. But a lot of people pretend that they can, and so they're framing stupidly. Or they're framing unconsciously. Because framing just means being selective. Framing means that, every issue is complicated. So you can only highlight some aspects of the issue to the detriment of others, or else you're going to do this insane data dump, and then you'll be kind of framing everything but you don't even know you're doing it, but everyone will be like, why are you telling me all this? So if every topic is a wall, then, it's got a bunch of pictures against the wall, and you pick a picture, and that's the picture that you focus on in your communication. The reason you need to be aware that you have to do this, and the effectiveness of doing this, is that different frames have different effects on audiences. Some shrink the audience, some enlarge the audience. And we found, psychologists and increasingly neuroscientists are now showing that people don't even understand, quote, facts outside of frames. For example, this is a really cool study from a guy named Dan Kahan at Yale. And what he did was just, psychologists love to make up fake articles for people to read. I don't know why they do this, but this is a fake article. It's a fake article about global warming. You can't really see it. But it's just the standard article. Scientists, they do this once a year or more. Scientists come out with reports saying global warming is real, human-caused, greenhouse gas emissions, duh. Right? But what they did was they changed the frame. So in one case, the same text and they framed the solution, right, not the science. In one case, they said this scientific result leads to the conclusion that we must cut pollution. And in one case, they said this result leads to the conclusion that we must advance nuclear power. Same result could be supported both. But when the conservatives read this one, they believe that global warming is real. And they read this one, they just get angry, and they're don't believe global warming is real. So the way that the issue is framed changes their interpretation of the information. Scientists need to be conscious of things like this. They need to be conscious of the basic idea of having a message, okay? Again, not a data dump. It has to be 150 words, something you can say in an elevator, something you can say at a cocktail party. It has to be brief. Jargon, oh my God. The nanotech people are the ones I'm mad at right now. They use the most that I've ever seen. They use words like surfactant. But even words like theory are misunderstood. Theory to them means a highly supported explanation that unifies all the data, and to everybody else it's a hunch. They need to, I love jargon busting now. It's so much fun. Cut all the jargon out, make it personal, make it something that we actually care about. Figure out who the audience is, how you're going to frame it, so that it motivates them to do something. And yes, use sound bites. What I try to tell them is that the greatest scientists were the greatest users of sound bites. We know what a sound bite is. A sound bite is, a short summary that defines an issue or a person, sometimes for a long time. Sometimes your whole reputation, your life, can be captured in a sound bite in a way that you don't like. But Einstein did it, and that's why we remember all of the cool things that Einstein said. You don't understand something in science unless you can explain it to your grandma. God doesn't play dice with the universe. And the scientists who wanted to bring Darwin back into the schools in the 50s and 60s, they did it with this slogan, 100 years without Darwin or enough. So we teach them messaging, sound bites, framing, and then we have a little bit of fun with them. We do a part called mock interview, where I take somebody from the audience and I just ask them about their research. But it's not an ordinary interview. It's modeled on the Colbert interview. So what would Colbert do with a scientist? Usually the ones he has on are pretty good, but first of all, he would bust jargon, and so I bust jargon. So there's this one, young scientist who studied stem cell research. She studies it in mice, so she's like, well, I study mouse models. I'm like, are they attractive? And I love marine biologists. Okay, I love marine biologists the best, because even if they're like communicating well and they're really getting their message across, I know how to knock them off message every time. All I have to do is say, I like what you study, and what's always interested me about marine biology is this: how do whales have sex? All right, because they're in the water. Like it can't be easy to, so do they have to have help? Do other whales help, or do they have to get up against something? And they're gone, like they're off message at that point. So we have fun with the poor scientists, but I think they love it. I think that they get something out of it. And I think that they need to realize that, in terms of wanting to communicate, it's not just, oh, we're going to create greater public enlightenment. I mean, definitely that's important. We can get people more engaged, and we're going to find the talented young, next generation of Carl Sagans who do this. But it's also to protect scientists, frankly. I mean, they are under attack. They are under fire. There was ClimateGate, which had sound bites associated with it. And the scientists didn't do anything wrong. It was just emails. They didn't prove anything, and they've been vindicated multiple times. Even if they hadn't, it wouldn't disprove global warming and so on. But all you have to do is bring up ClimateGate on the Hill, and the discussion's over. It's the number one thing that's used to slam the door shut on the idea that global warming is happening and should be dealt with, even though it's very firmly established. And the scientists who found themselves in the middle of this, it's a case study in failed communication. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know how to respond to the media. They went into bunker mode, and they were destroyed. They were destroyed by people who, some they get there, always hated them. Quote, a lot of people who didn't hate them hurt. Instead of being derided as geeks or nerds, scientists should be seen as courageous realists and less great heroic explorers of the unknown. That means they should get more money, more publicity, better clothes, more sex, and free rehab. When the thing goes to their heads. That's what we're working towards. Thank you. I guess my toast is to the ninjas.
Thank you very much.